Hello everyone, today I'm working on this SD40. It's a Kato. I got a little bit lucky there because this thing looks to be in really good shape. Now I got into a little bit of trouble this week because we had this huge freezing rainstorm and I didn't have power for 3 days. In fact, this is the first morning that I have power. 8488 reminds me of the 8888 incident. You guys are probably aware of that. There was a runaway engine numbered 8888 and it was an SD40 also. May 15, 2001 was the date of the incident. They even made a movie about this, so you might have a chance to get your significant other to come in and take a look at this movie. You know, with Denzel Washington and Chris Pine. It'll give you an excuse to watch trains all evening. So that might be kind of cool. So this looks to be in very good shape. I'm going to put it on the track just so we can see where we're starting with, because it may be a good runner as it is. Turns out it's an excellent runner. No big surprise there. So as I clean and lubricate it, I don't think I'm going to get much improvement. But because it's brand new, I still want to get in there and take a look. To take the shell off, you can use the box method, or there's two little bars where you can pry under. These shells, they come off pretty easy. That is not something, although be careful, do not pull on the trucks, because I've had this happen several times where the little pin that holds them in the engine breaks. Now you can still run the engine even though that pin might be disconnected, but every time I pick the engine off the track, the trucks come off, and that's no fun. It just isn't that much fun. So everything looks great in here, no surprise. I'm still taking it apart. I don't care. Little light shield, the two lights. Oh, they're in there good. Maybe it's new old stock, this engine. Maybe it's never been run. It's in that good a shape. The contact strip, if they fall out, they fall off. Amazing that this would be no old stock like that. You know, nobody wants to play with it. That's kind of interesting. I don't know, do you guys like CSX? Actually, next to my house is the CN main line, and there's an interchange with the CSX. So I see CSX trains about once a week, and it's good because it gives me a chance to see US engines. Yeah, that is kind of cool. So these, they have an arrow. They have a little arrow there. You can see my hands getting oily, so they've been oiled before. But they do not look dirty. So there's no point in cleaning that. But I am going to go through the wheels just to say that I did something. So yeah, this week's video is going to be maybe a little bit shorter because of the power outage. I didn't have too much fun there during the power outage. It was like going back to the dark ages almost. Although I had water, but it was cold. And then I will still take the time to clean my wheels up. Just to be sure. Usually I'll take the boxes and run them through my tap with some dish soap and my toothbrush. But today it won't be necessary. I like the SD40 or the SD40-2. I like the proportions. It's like your run-of-the-mill General Motors engine, but it's like it's Super Duty. And the 6-wheel trucks, they just look good. And just a good looking engine altogether. And I guess people like them. People that were railroaders at the time liked them. So these, they go back exactly where you found them. There's no particular order, but I'm looking at the wheels. There's hardly any wear on them, so I think it was a new old stock, this engine. And I got it for a reasonable amount, so it must have been just forgotten, I guess. I don't know why, and no one wanted to play with that. That's an awesome engine. Look at that. And so smooth and quiet. And there's a little hold for the gear, so you cannot put it backwards. And then they just snap into place. Check it with your fingers, just to be sure. That's pretty awesome. And then I'll continue taking this apart. But from the way it ran, you know, you can easily tell. That makes the grade, you know. You can easily tell there's nothing to do in here. And then you have to push these little pins out. So you would do a maintenance like this, you know, every year, or if you use the engine every day, maybe every 3 months. Oh, look at that, so beautiful. Everything runs perfectly in here. Since I have it apart, I'm just gonna add just a drop of oil, just to say that I did something. You could almost do it while the engine's together. But since I have it apart there, that makes it easier. And that's it. It will distribute itself while the engine's running. Could you convert this to DCC? Yes, you can. You have to mill the frame a little bit to have room for your decoder. But that's it. You just isolate the motor and it's doable. But should you? Well, that's another question. There's a lot of engines out there that are DCC friendly. Many choices. So I don't know. There's manufacturers that actually only make DCC. So that would probably be a better decision, you know. I like classic cars. I see a lot of people doing resto mods, and apparently they get huge money for it. I'm not into that. if you want to have an LS engine and disc brakes, just buy a newish car. They're plentiful. So you don't have to have these very tight, just hand tight. And then I gotta loosen them again to put my trucks in. I've started to do that, you know, not take the whole engine apart, to take the trucks in. So you get your arrow to point out, and then you just open this up, and boom, you're in. And then I use gravity as my friend. But before I do that, I'm actually going to put the contact strips back on. These, they go over this bump, but under this tab. And then I'll just clean them with my finger like that. So this was a good runner, so I don't expect I'm gonna see much changes. Then I can put my trucks back in, find my arrow. So I've got one finger holding the contact strips and one finger holding my truck down. And then I use gravity as my friend to keep the truck in place. And then same thing with this one. So I use fingers to keep my contact strips in. See this one's, it should be over this little pin. Not a huge thing, but details count on this. Especially if you want it to run nice. There. Yeah, my contact strips all out of whack. That can't be good. So now's the time to work on that. Make sure your contact strips are where they should be. And then once you have them and you're happy, you put the fuel tank back on, and the fuel tank, it will keep them in place. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put the fuel tank. The front of the engine is here. You can see it's a little bit lower. And you put the filler hole towards the front. So that's going to hold them in place, and I'm going to organize them to where they should go and line them up properly. I look at both sides at the same time to line them up properly. And then once I got them lined up, I can move on to the next step. So that's pretty important because that brings power from the track to your engine. So definitely is worth taking the extra minute to line them up properly. Make sure these little pins are touching the contact strips. That looks great. I can put my lights back on. This directional lighting. I remember I got my first engine with directional lighting and I liked it. That is some really good stuff. And then your little light shield. There. So that part's done. I'm gonna want to switch out the couplers here. I'm gonna want to put some micro trains. So these, they just pop out like this. Usually I'll take the whole shell apart and have them easier to work on, but for today, like this is gonna do the job. So I'm just gonna do it like that. I'm using micro trains, so these are made in the USA. There's a country that I won't name, but they send balloons to spy on missile silos. They make all the stuff, you know, almost everything's made there. You know, I don't know if that was such a good idea to have everything made in that other country. Kato trains are made in Japan, and the micro trains couplers, they're made in the USA. So that is pretty nice. Pretty good to know. Now, if I were smart, I would test this before I put it back on before I put the shell back on. But I'm gonna be bold, and I'm just going to put them together. And now it's time to run some trains. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.